What's going on, guys? It's Fantasy Stock Exchange here, and today we're going to be bringing you another Underdog Best Ball Draft. And you guys can see on the screen right now, we actually have a couple members of the Discord in here. So we got Spicy Hot and Flet is actually in here. So if you guys want to do more mocks with us in general, use our code on Underdog right now. If we get up to 11, possibly more people on here, we could actually end up doing our own private drafts with you guys. Just us, just you guys, and it'll be fun. So anyways, how you doing today, Corey?
I'm doing good. We're trying to speed through the intro because we got like 5 seconds till the draft starts. We're currently picking from pick three in the draft. As you guys all know, Best Ball is, if you guys don't know, I could quickly fill you in. Best Ball is a system where you don't have to pick who to start and sit. There's no waivers, no trades, none of that stuff. You just draft a deeper roster and the software automatically starts you whoever performs the best. And the cool thing about these Best Ball drafts is it's essentially like doing a mock draft, except people actually care because it's for real money. This is a $5 draft. You can do $25 Best Ball Mania, but we are on the clock right now. So,
are you good with Kamara here since he'd be our next highest consensus running back?
I'm good with Kamara, although I personally would take Saquon.
Okay, fair. Let's just. Oh shit! Let me not take JT.
Yeah, so we went with Alvin Kamara there at the 103. This is the first time in the history of Underdog mocks that I didn't get the 110 or the 109 or the 111 because I always.
Because I'm in here, bro. It's because I'm in here.
Facts. So this is going to be a different strategy for me because I've been mock drafting from 109 because I know in my home league that's where I'm going to be picking. And then on top of that, in all of these Underdog mocks, I tend to get a back end of the first round pick. And you guys know we voiced our opinion on the back end of the first round picks yesterday on the running back rankings video. So we definitely enjoy picks like that. You can see on the board right now, Christian McCaffrey, Dalvin Cook, Alvin Kamara, Saquon Barkley. I would say it's pretty common. I would imagine Derrick Henry is going to come off the board pretty soon. Travis Kelsey at the 105.
Interesting.
See, I understand why people are doing it. If you look at some of the data, it suggests that Travis Kelsey is that much of an advantage that it is worthy of a pick like that, similar to the way that Christian McCaffrey is an advantage at the running back position. But I just can't do it. I can't pick him that high. He needs to be like a mid-second round pick for me to pick him.
I'm fine with him at the mid to back end first. Like if you're talking like the 108, 109, around there, that's when I start considering him. But yeah, at this current point, if Kelsey's going at the 105, just give me the value on Kittle or Waller at that back end second, early third round area because they're all going to be producing over 1,000 yards, over 85 receptions. So why would I pass on one of these top running backs like Henry? I would put Zeke in that tier and get Kelsey with that pick. Whereas once the running backs start drying up, I can just get one of the other tight ends.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And he's definitely worthy of a high pick because of that advantage that he provides you. But like I said, it's just the way my roster construction works. I can't, knowingly spend a pick like that when there's those elite running backs on the board. Once the running backs are starting to dry up a little bit and you're deciding between Kelsey and receivers, then to me, it makes sense. I just personally wouldn't do it that high.
Yep, absolutely agree. So we actually do see Spicy off from the Discord drafting Tyreek Hill. We got Flet from the Discord back to back on that turn. So we'll see how they end up on that little area. Good thing we're not kind of picking around them because they basically have all our rankings anyway. So they can just snipe each other.
both of whom own the draft guide too. So they will know at least our dynasty rankings. We haven't officially released our redraft rankings because that guide hasn't come out yet. But as you guys, and I haven't mentioned this, you can see it going across the screen right now. If you guys want to join us in Underdog drafts, if you never, if you don't have an Underdog account, you can sign up using our link, using our promo code. It's in the description of all of our videos. And you get a free $25 deposit bonus to sign up, which is essentially a free entry into the Best Ball Mania contest, which is a $1 million contest. And then on top of that, you get you can practice all your mock drafts all summer long, basically, and win real money with them.
Absolutely. So, I'm pretty devastated there that our boys just ended up getting all sniped there in that row. You got Chubb, you got Eckler, you got Gibson, you got Akers. And, real sharp one here in Spicy Hot, knowing to go Gibson over Joe Mixon at that spot. So,
and we got I'm excited to see where some of these receivers are going to go off the board in real drafts and Underdog drafts. Like, I'm just excited to see where they go because generally speaking, I think everybody knows about the take a lot of running backs early type of strategy. And it'll be interesting to see how many receivers you see come off the board before, especially if you pick 1, 2, or 3 before your second pick in the second round, because for the most part, I would assume you're going to be looking at a very barren running back situation because of that need that people have to get those running backs early.
Absolutely. So, anyway, sorry to cut off, but we're going to be back on the clock here in 20 seconds. And to me, here at this current point, given that the wide receivers start to flow off the board, the running backs, we could probably still get Dobbins on the turn back. I'm actually looking at one of these two tight ends. And typically, here, if I compare a Kamara with a George Kittle, for example, or Darren Waller, whatever preference, like that's probably the route I would go. But what are your thoughts here?
I don't hate it. I personally would take J.K. Dobbins here, but if you want to go with a tight end, we should have another option at running back in the second or in the third round. So we should be okay there. Whether it's Dobbins that falls to us, we could still probably get Edwards-Helaire if Dobbins is gone. If Dobbins is gone, or we could get Montgomery, who would be my next rated running back after those two.
Perfect. Yeah, I honestly think Dobbins might fall back to us because in these drafts, for whatever reason, he's falling to the mid-late for a third round, and it makes no sense to me. But anyways, hopefully we can snag him up here.
There goes Clyde. I see. It wouldn't shock me too if Swift and Clyde go off the board before him.
Yeah, I know. I agree, especially according to this ADP as well. So hopefully we can snag it up. See, if you're Littlefoot here, surely you go Waller, right? But given that you already have McCaffrey,
it's definitely an advantage that would be helpful. I also wouldn't discount any of these guys taking Mahomes either, too. If you're gonna go for an advantage at a position too. Oh, there goes JK. Brutal. Okay, so on the board right now, to me, the best available player is probably David Montgomery. I know you have DeAndre Swift higher than David Montgomery, so we might have a little situation here, obviously. But at wide receiver, I think there's also some good options on the board if we wanted to go in that direction. I personally think we should go with a running back, just because if we don't go with a running back, then we're going to be forced to take the dreaded middle round running backs that we could have to go after. And I personally would pick David Montgomery here if it was me making the pick.
Well, I'll let you make the pick. Do you want Monty?
Yeah, I will take David Montgomery if I get the rights here.
I don't mind it.
Yeah, so David Montgomery to me is one of the most, I don't want to say disrespected running backs in fantasy right now, but I think everybody is shrugging off what he did last year. They're just going, David Montgomery last year had no Tariq Cohen in his backfield. He basically was the king of volume. He had all the routes run in the offense. He had all the targets in the offense, all the goal line carries in the offense, all the carries in the offense. And he was basically the engine of their offense last year. But the cool thing about David Montgomery this year is while Tariq Cohen is coming back, his situation improved, right? I'm going to be writing an article in a couple days going over when I expect Justin Fields to start based on historical trends and things of that nature. And Justin Fields is a very mobile quarterback, and he can only mean good things for a guy like David Montgomery, who is more of a patient runner, more of a bruiser type of running back. I think that's the type of compliment that you would want with a guy like Justin Fields, who's more of, honestly, he's the faster of the two. He's the more freakish athlete of the two guys. And Fields can provide the attention away from defenses that David Montgomery can benefit from, and something that he hasn't had in his career outside of Mitch Trubisky to some degree.
Absolutely. And having that type of mobile running or quarterback is always an advantage for the running back, specifically when you're looking at David Montgomery's situation in terms of keeping the offense moving and keeping it fluid. I mean, we're talking about a guy who really showed on his volume last year that he was, in fact, a good running back after struggling in his rookie year. So I do agree. Now, people might say, oh, yeah, maybe you reached a little bit. That's fine. At this current point, given that we went tight end in the second round, it was probably our best option to secure that running back. And we got absolutely sniped on J.K. Dobbins. Going off the ADP there, going off the historical underdog values, I just assumed that he'd be able to fall back to us and we were going to be able to secure the tight end and the running back there. That's why sometimes you take the risk and sometimes it works out for you, but sometimes it doesn't.
Right. If you want to show the draft board, we're seeing a big time run of wide receivers that I was hoping would make it back to us. I didn't have really high expectations that they would, because this is a very receiver rich area of drafts. Historically, at least from what I've noticed doing drafts on here. So I'm hoping we can get a wide receiver on our way back here.
I think you realize who I'm hoping for right now.
I'd imagine you want CeeDee Lamb.
If he falls, he just went, as I said that.
Cool. Yeah, so we're going to be looking at a couple guys here. I'm hoping that one of Chris Godwin, Robert Woods, or Cooper Kupp is there for us, because those are, to me, the three highest rated receivers that I have left. And all three of those guys were in our top 20 wide receivers that we went over 2 days ago. So if you guys saw that video, you know what our thoughts are on Chris Godwin. I already talked about, especially in a best ball format, Chris Godwin is somewhat of an undervalued asset, because the only real headache with any of the Bucs receivers are some weeks, certain guys are going to disappoint because the other guy got the touchdown or whatever the big play was or whatever that was in that week. But in a best ball format, Chris Godwin's going to give you 9-10 good weeks, and you don't have to choose when those weeks come. So I really like him as a 4th round player, and we're going to get him at the back of the 4th round here by the looks of it, unless he gets sniped right now as I'm saying this. Yep, knew it.
Yeah. And I think the running backs in this range are just, I'd rather much rather wait for like the Damian Harris range. So overall, if we're looking at the receivers,
to me, it's Cooper Kupp, and it's not close. Like in terms of the best guy on the board right now.
You want to go Kupp, and then like, is it crazy if we go Lamar Jackson in the 5th there, or what do you?
I don't think that's crazy. I also think Golladay or Deontay Johnson or even Jamar Chase at that point might be not a bad idea. But I agree with Lamar Jackson in the 5th if he's there. I think he shouldn't be going that far in drafts, especially when you look at, again, this is a best ball format. Lamar Jackson's ceiling on a weekly basis is very, very high because he has the ability to break off huge runs and score rushing touchdowns, of course. So his weekly ceiling is incredible. And he's a guy that I'm willing to spend an early pick on just because it seems like his value is not being really appropriate to how much of an advantage he is at the position. I still have him ranked as my QB2. He's the guy I would take right behind Patrick Mahomes. And I would say traditionally, you're more likely getting him as the QB4 or 5, sometimes 6 off the board.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you look at the ADP right here. These two guys, Dak and Lamar, in my opinion, again, maybe I'm biased being a Cowboys fan, but I think these two should be swapped up here. And in general, you're seeing a 12-pick discrepancy between these players. Like, it just doesn't make sense to me.
Right. And I talked about it with the tight end rankings video where I said the 2nd and 3rd tier of tight ends seems to be better this year. I also think that applies to quarterbacks as well. I think the Josh Allen, Kyler Murray, Dak Prescott, Lamar Jackson tier is a stronger 2nd tier of quarterbacks than we're used to, in my opinion.
Absolutely. So if he's there, would you be Lamar Jackson as the top option then? Or because we went tight end, would you want another receiver potentially?
I think receiver needs to be a priority because by the time we get back to our next pick, we're looking probably at like Jarvis Landry, Michael Gallup, Curtis Samuel maybe being as our wide receiver 2, which kind of makes me a little bit nervous. So to me, the pick is Kenny Golladay, but I also like Brandon Ayuk, T. Higgins, and Adam Thielen here, and Deontay Johnson. I don't really hate any of those options.
I probably like Higgins the best out of them, considering the fact that I just trust their passing offense out of all these options the best. So I would prefer Higgins, but it's up to you here. I'll let you make the deal.
You make the picks, and say I made the first one with Montgomery, so you can take T. Higgins there.
Go for it.
Yeah, and maybe, I mean, Kenny Golladay, I know he's going to be a popular bust candidate for people because they're going to cite the fact that there's too many mouths to feed in the offense. And while that's true to some degree, they paid this guy like a number 1 receiver. He is coming into a situation where he never really was a high target guy anyway, right? If this was Michael Thomas switching teams, then you might have a bigger concern, right? Because Michael Thomas has been a high target guy in his career. Kenny Golladay has been efficient. He's been able to score touchdowns on low target volumes in the past. And I would argue that this is the least crowded of a situation he's ever been in, with Marvin Jones being an established weapon in Detroit, even Danny Amendola taking away like 100 targets 2 years ago when Kenny Golladay was last a very relevant receiver. I think Kenny Golladay is in position to have his highest target total of his career this year.
Absolutely, as we do see Lamar Jackson actually go off the board 2 after. Unfortunate. Now, that's the thing you got to tinker with here. I will always kind of say, if you're taking both an early quarterback and a tight end, it kind of hampers your overall roster because, again, in this format in particular, receivers are very valuable in those mid rounds because you want to typically, as we're going to talk about with the Hayden Wings video, but you want to typically have like those 2 bell cow type backs, an advantage at the tight end position, and just stock up on receivers and a quarterback maybe in the round 9 in those mid round areas. So overall, because we went with that our tight end early, it would have kind of hampered our roster too much to go with the quarterback as well.
Right. And Lamar Jackson, even if we would have went Kyler Murray, Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, is the difference between Lamar Jackson and Matthew Stafford, Tom Brady, as big as the difference between T. Higgins, Kenny Golladay, Brandon Ayuk, and Marquise Brown. Like, that's a massive difference, especially as our wide receiver 2 at that point. That would have been really, really questionable if we would have had a guy like that as our wide receiver 2. And that would have been very possible with the way that the receivers have been flying off the board. And there goes Kenny Golladay. I was hoping there was a chance he was going to make it back to us. I didn't think he was going to, but There goes Dak Prescott.
Flet knows.
Your boy,
Flet
and he goes
knows.
Brandon Ayuk. He takes another guy that I would have had my eye on here. I am praying to God that one of these top 5 or 6 guys at wide receiver gets to us with Beckham, with Claypool, with Chark, Anderson, and Fuller. Those are the guys that I'm really eyeing. And Debo, sorry too, I didn't even see him. Those guys are the ones that I'm eyeing as our third receiver spot. But we also don't really have another running back. And Javonte Williams, to me, is the only guy that I'm really comfortable having as our RB3, and it would be very helpful if he would make it to us. I'm not sure he's going to, though.
Damon Harris would have been nice too, but Spicy Hot just went with it.
Right.
Man. All right, let's just hope any of these 4 fall. Please, just keep going quarterbacks. Come on, guys. Tight ends as well. Just take them.
Yeah. There goes Cortland Sutton. I figured he'd be off the board pretty quick. Chase Claypool would be an awesome pick, but I have a feeling he's going to go with this next pick just because I said that.
I am fine with Javonte too, to be honest. So
I also don't think Chark's a bad pick too, either, just because of the best ball appeal with DJ Chark. He's getting oh my God, he's getting a QB. He's getting a QB upgrade, right? Like a big time QB upgrade. This was a 1-15 team last year. This was a terrible team and absolutely sniped where we. And I really like Deebo Samuel and Javonte Williams here.
I think given the ADP, I know we played that game last time, but we could probably get both of them if we go Javonte first.
Yeah, I agree. Let's take Javonte Williams here. He is our RB3, but I think in the 9th, 10th round, we're going to be looking at some of these guys that are in more ambiguous backfields that should have 5, 6, 7 weeks of RB2 or better production that we can pair with the 2 good running backs that we have, and then Javonte Williams is upside as well.
Also, in my opinion, the most optimal type format to really build your rosters, again, we're going to be talking about it in roster construction, but I don't go past 4 running backs in best ball. This would be the situation where I would take a 4th running back because of Javonte Williams. If you can get like a locked and load, like, even if I got Melvin Gordon, like I wouldn't mind that as Javonte Williams is easing in. So overall, that's kind of the optimal play. But come on, man, Robbie, like please, Robbie. Like, can we get Robbie? Man,
I have Will Fuller rated the highest out of the guys that are available right now, and then probably Robbie Anderson right after that. So I don't hate any of those guys. I'm warming up on this area of the draft in terms of wide receivers, like the sustainable production that you can get out of this area. Because at first I thought it was like a bigger tier break than it is. It is still a decent tier break in my opinion, but I actually like some of the guys that are on the board right now.
Like I personally would prefer Anderson to Fuller. So if they're like back to back for you, I would prefer Anderson. But
yeah, we can go with Robbie Anderson.
Okay. And dude, hopefully like Judy falls back to us. That would be nice.
Right. And we saw last year when Teddy Bridgewater came in, his favorite target was Robbie Anderson. It wasn't DJ Moore. And we have a situation now where the current quarterback has played with Robbie Anderson before in New York. And we saw Robbie Anderson escape the clutches of Adam Gase and be immediately productive. Who's to say that Sam Darnold isn't going to be at least the most productive he's been in his career? I'm not saying he's going to be a franchise quarterback all of a sudden, but he could at least be serviceable and better than Teddy Bridgewater.
Speaking of Teddy Bridgewater and Jerry Jeudy, who I just mentioned, it's the next pick.
Yeah, I mean, we weren't going to get him to fall back to us 15 picks from now anyway.
Yeah, that's fair. It's just like, damn, man. We're just getting sniped all draft. This is crazy.
Yeah, the running back position is one that I would like to secure another guy at that position. I'm hoping we can get either one of these 2 rookies, Trey Sermon, Michael Carter, or one of the older like incumbent starters with Mostert and Melvin Gordon, or one of the Tampa Bay running backs, because I think those guys are going to have pretty good value as well. And in this format, man, like you don't have to choose when to start Ronald Jones. You don't have to choose when to start Leonard Fournette, and they're going to be valuable. They're going to score touchdowns. This offense is too good for them not to score touchdowns. And you don't have to worry about the question mark of who gets the touchdown this week, or who has the long play this week, or who, breaks off a 6-7 reception game. Like one of these guys is going to be valuable week in and week out. It's probably going to be a headache to decide who, if you're in a redraft league, but I would imagine in a best ball league, it's the perfect situation for them.
Yeah, absolutely. But the last one I'm really eyeing here would be Sermon. Again, the available goal line appeal, especially with Jeff Wilson out, is kind of intriguing. And in the 8th round, I mean, you could do a lot worse than that. Especially again, the Niners offense as a whole should be much improved with Trey Lance in town. So I would eye Sermon if he would fall back to me or fall back to us. But if he's off the board, I wouldn't mind even waiting one more round because I kind of see like a met here in general between like the Fournette, the Gordon, the
and there goes Ronald Jones.
And yeah, Rojo would have been the other one. So,
yeah, if you want to show the board too, just to make sure everyone can see what's going on here. Like this is an area of the draft that I think the talent pool is starting to thin out a little bit. You can tell from the first 6 rounds, it looks like there's just so many options that you can't even decide between them. Whereas this point, it's a much more of a get your guys situation. And we talk about ADP all the time, average draft position, if you don't know what that is. And this is the area when you can start deviating from ADP a lot more, in my opinion, because especially with Tyler Higbee just went off the board, for example, as the tight end. Yeah. If you wanted to take an Irv Smith there or whatever tight end you believe is right after these solidified guys, I don't blame you because you don't want to risk playing the ADP waiting game like we've been playing and
Zach Moss,
some of your players. Yeah, Zach Moss off the board.
Yeah, I guess Zach Moss is his guy. What the heck? I don't. Antonio Brown.
I think this is appropriate value for a guy like Zach Moss. He's gonna score some touchdowns. He's gonna have a game here or two, and he's actually, in terms of a receiving talent, he might even, and of course Leonard Fournette goes off the board. He might even be the more valuable piece of that receiving game between the two running backs because Devin Singletary, despite his size, has never really shown the ability to be a great pass catcher.
Yeah, I agree with that. And looking at the board, again, this can sound biased, but
I actually like Gallup too.
I was about to say that because we're looking at the potency of that Dallas offense. This is going to be a team that puts up points, as we've mentioned a bunch of times. And Gallup is the perfect best ball over redraft stigma, if you will, because this guy will have a 25, 30-point week one week, and then the next week he'll only have 3-4 targets because that's just how it fluctuates when you have a plethora of options like Dallas does. Michael Gallup is still a very talented player, so getting him in the 8th round in this type of format is fantastic.
Yeah, I disagree at all. And I actually like Jarvis Landry as well. I know in terms of a best ball format, he doesn't seem like he has the highest appeal because he is more of a safe option. He's more of a known quantity than some of these other guys. But I think people underrate Jarvis Landry a little bit. And I know he just went off the board like right after our pick. But Jarvis Landry is going to score some touchdowns. Again, this is a pretty high-scoring offense. And if nobody trusts Odell Beckham, then we got to trust Jarvis Landry to some extent, right? I know he's probably not going to finish as a wide receiver 1, but if he's wide receiver 19 at the end of the year, it wouldn't shock me at all.
There's one name here now. I don't want to risk Stafford not falling back to us.
I'm actually looking at Melvin Gordon right now. As a potential option there. I know we have Javonte Williams that kind of limits us a little bit, the fact that we'd be stacking that backfield, but Matthew Stafford to me is also a nice fit, especially because we have Cooper Kupp. So if you want to go with Matt Stafford, I don't blame you.
Your choice. I called the last one.
All right, let's go Stafford.
All right.
Yeah, and we've already talked about Matthew Stafford again. This is another guy, much like Sam Darnold, who could be poised to have his best season of his career. And we've already seen Matthew Stafford, unlike Sam Darnold, be a top 10 quarterback in fantasy and be probably a top 8 real-life quarterback from a passing perspective. And he goes to a situation now that has a stable offensive line, probably two of the best receiving duo that he's ever worked with. I know he had Calvin Johnson, Kenny Golladay, but the two receivers in Los Angeles, he also has some deep threats that are going to lead to some splash plays and some big explosive weeks for him because he has Deshaun Jackson, Tutu Atwell, two fast guys that'll probably break off a couple plays here and there. I really like the outlook of Matthew Stafford, and then he's got Higbee in the red zone too. I think he has everything he needs to have a breakout season, whether that translates to him being an MVP contender, like we think could be his ceiling, or it's just a steady Matthew Stafford type year like usual where he's like QB8 in points per game. I think either way, you're kind of stealing him at this point in the draft because that situation is about as easy to project as any, in my opinion.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. Again, this is a situation of an offense that should figure, again, as I mentioned in those rankings videos, top 5 in scoring in the NFL. I expect the Rams would be one of the best overall teams in the NFC, arguably number 2, maybe after your Tampa Bay Buccaneers. That's how much potential I think this team has. And if that's the case, that should be a big year in store for Matthew Stafford.
Yeah, no, I definitely don't disagree. They have the defense. They have the defense is going to create takeaways like they did last year. And that's, I mean, some people think of a good defense is a bad thing for quarterbacks, but it's probably a better thing than a lot of people think because defenses that are good, especially like the Rams defense that has a lot of superstars on it, they're going to create turnovers and short fields, which is going to lead to scoring opportunities, whether it's for Cam Akers or it's for Matthew Stafford. It's still a good thing that your defense can get off the field in a quick fashion.
Absolutely. So we're looking at the board right now, and we're starting to get in the range where we're talking about those two guys we mentioned as potential sleepers. We're looking at Mike Williams. We're looking at Corey Davis, as we do see Melvin Gordon going off the board. There's like no running backs I'm even intrigued by at this point. Like maybe a guy like
Nyheim
McKissick.
Hines is a horrible pick, I guess, but David, honestly, as disgusting as it sounds, David Johnson might be the most locked in volume guy here. It's probably bad volume. It's probably volume that we won't want. But our running back core is a little thin right now, and it makes me a little bit nervous knowing that we don't really have anybody outside of our top guys.
Yeah, I can see that. Again, honestly, at this point, and I would just wait. Like I would just scoop the receiver talent available because I don't really view a huge appeal between any of these guys. As we see fucking Mike Williams go off the board, great. This is just a snipe fest at this point. Ooh.
He's kind of Rashad Bateman. Yeah, Rashad Bateman was the guy that I was eyeing down too.
Yeah, he's pretty damn buried. I'll take that.
Yeah, and there goes Irv Smith. Do we think about? I mean, we have such a superstar tight end. I don't mind us not even taking a second tight end for a while. And when we take a second, I don't even think we need a third tight end. Period.
Maybe like a fucking last round third tight end, but realistically, here when you have a George Kittle, you're banking on the upside. You're banking on him playing. And when he is in the lineup, he's probably going to fill your weeks 85-90% of the time, regardless. So I do agree with that.
Is it worth taking a guy in, Gerald Everett in the last 2 rounds of the drafts that maybe will outscore George Kittle 1 or 2 weeks this entire season, when we could take a guy that could be in our wide receiver 4, wide receiver 3 slot 3 or 4 times in the season? It's just more effective to probably do something like that.
Yep, I absolutely agree. So we can slot in Shoddy B, and this is pretty nice.
Yeah, I'm voting to take Nyheim Hines with the next pick. I know it's a little bit, maybe you don't think it's the greatest value in the world, but if we're going to go for a pass catching running back, I think JD McKissic is set to regress based on what he did last year, because I think everybody's expecting that same output of receiving volume. And we've already talked about Gibson enough. Like, there's no way that JD McKissic, in my opinion, is going to have the same valuable role that he had last year because of that emergence of Gibson in the passing game.
Yep, no, I absolutely agree, and I think 11th round is
get back to us. Damn it.
Yeah, I think 11th round is very fine value for Nyheim Hines. Again, we've kind of mentioned that Jonathan Taylor is not going to be the most adept pass catcher on the field for the Colts, and Nyheim Hines had a very good role last year. I mean, even with Jonathan Taylor getting those 4.5 or so targets per game at the end of the year, Nyheim Hines' role was not cut in that sequence. They were using both backs very efficiently. And in general, if this guy catches 2 touchdowns in the game, which can very well happen, you could absolutely see him getting into the lineup every now and then. So if we're going to punt the position, this is probably the final running back I even take at this point, to be honest, because otherwise we're just limiting the upside in general. I think Hines is a perfect way to kind of round out that core.
Yeah, and I think you basically hit the nail on the head there. When you're at the 11th round, I would hope you have 3 running backs, 4 running backs, maybe 5 on your roster by now, because like we said, to take one of these, 15th round running backs, how many times you can only start up to 3 running backs maximum because you have 2 running back slots and 1 flex spot. How many times is Elijah Mitchell going to outscore Javonte Williams, David Montgomery, and Alvin Kamara in a week? Like, probably never, right? Like, that's probably not going to happen. Maybe it happens once all season. It's just way more worth it to take a wide receiver at that point, especially one that can have 3 to 4 spike weeks in a year.
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree. Looking at this coming back up, I'm kind of looking at maybe even forming a next stack on our team. So you can see clearly here, I do have highlighted in Zach Wilson. We could wait on that as well. Since we do have David Montgomery, it would make kind of sense if we locked up a Justin Fields here too, and maybe went Zach Wilson later. Although, would you want to double dip in the rookie pool at that point?
I don't hate it, especially with Justin Fields too. As I talked about, like, I think this guy is going to start a lot faster than people think. I know everybody's going to go, oh, well, like Andy Dalton's the starter to start out. It's like, how many times are we going to do this with rookie quarterbacks where we think the incumbent mess starter is going to hold them off very long? As soon as the Bears lose a game because their offense was struggling, which will probably happen in the first game if Andy Dalton's the week 1 starter, people are going to be calling for Justin Fields. And when you just look at them physically, like how could you not start Justin Fields compared to Andy Dalton? Like he's a physically imposing human being. Like to me, these guys, especially Fields and Lance, are going to go super undervalued in redraft leagues, in best ball leagues, because people are going to be like, oh, I don't want a guy that's only going to start half the season. I will bet my house that these guys are both starting by week 5.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. And that was the guy that I was hoping to complete the Elijah or the Zach Wilson stack with. And Spicy Hot knows our rankings, so he ended up with him. So good pick there.
Yeah, and Cole Beasley at the 11-8 is actually not a bad pick at all, because Cole Beasley was actually quite involved from a targets perspective. And if you like, this is a half PPR format. If you get 8 receptions out of Cole Beasley in a week, he's going to probably finish as a top 24 receiver on the week. And I'm willing to bet that happens a good amount of the time, like probably 5, 6, 7 games a year. And at that point, you just need him to score a touchdown to have a real spike week and to get a ceiling out of him. So a lot of people assume Cole Beasley is a low ceiling player, and he is to some extent, especially when you look at his full season outlook. But on a weekly basis, Cole Beasley can provide you a 20-point game.
Yep. No, I absolutely agree with that. And Latavius Murray is a very interesting pick here at the 12-6. I do think that's probably around the value range for him. Again, he's got a little bit of standalone value given the fact that the Saints love using their running backs. And in general, if anything were to happen to Kamara, we've seen multiple times in the past that Latavius can win you not only weeks, but potentially leagues. So I do like that type of value here in the 12th round.
Yeah, that's not a bad pick at all. I'm looking at the running back position right now. There's not too many guys I even think are worthy of spending a draft pick on. The one guy that is kind of catching my eye, though, is Rashad Penny, just because the way that we've seen Rashad Penny involved, and I know it's again, we're probably not going to pick him, but he is a guy that I think is worthy of taking a shot on in the 12th, 13th round, because I think he does have some kind of upside to potentially take over the Carlos Hyde role from last year. And we know with Chris Carson's injury history, he's not a guy that's going to fend off anybody, because he's very notorious for missing 2, 3, 4 games at a time with lower body injuries and things of that nature, just by the nature of how Chris Carson plays.
Yeah, I can absolutely see that as well. The guy that I'm kind of eyeing here, and I have him in the queue, but it's not the one at the top of the queue. I'm actually looking at Terrace. I'm looking at Terrace Marshall. I'm looking at Terrace Marshall
because we do have Robbie Anderson already, so I don't know if I want full exposure to the Sam Darnold passing game. Like, I'm not sure how effective it's going to be, but
we can stack it with Darnold after.
We could stack it with Darnold after. That's not a bad play.
I know you can call it, dude. Like if you don't want it, it's all good.
I actually don't mind Denzel Mims here, who you have queued. I don't mind also potentially going with a tight end here, because I do see Jonnu Smith on the board, and I think Jonnu Smith is a great option for best ball specifically. But I'll let you. We could probably get Jonnu with our next pick, so I think we should go Mims here.
Okay, I'm fine with it. We could still complete that jet stack as well, if we need to.
Yeah, and again, this is a $5 league, so I'm not overly, looking to stack at all points, because stacking is generally considered a thing that you do for upside, right? And you really only need upside in a big tournament. This is only a 12-man league, so it's not like we need to, make sure we have stacks to increase our upside. I think your upside really just comes out of what the players you pick. If they all perform, then you're going to be fine. You don't really need stacks in a best ball format that's not like a huge tournament.
Yeah, that's absolutely fair. Again, we're going to talk about that too in the strategies video, where depending on the size of your tournament, depending on the size of really what you're kind of getting yourself into. If you're in a best ball mania, your strategy is going to completely change because you're chasing ceiling. Whereas if you're in a 12-team league, sometimes it's just best to not screw up at these current points of the draft, because you're only competing against 11 other people. And injuries, other things are going to happen. You don't have to worry about it. You're not competing against 150,000 people.
Right. And if you get a guy in this point of the draft that gives you 5 to 6 weeks that he gets into your starting lineup, whether it's in your flex spot or your wide receiver 3 spot or your quarterback 1 slot because your quarterback got injured or is around bye week or something like that, that's where you're really getting value out of these players, because we could, go for upside and take Alexander Mattison right now, but Alexander Mattison, unless Dalvin Cook gets hurt, is going to be virtually useless for fantasy.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. Sorry, I thought you were going to continue. Yeah, I agree with that. Anyways, we do see Spicy Hawk coming back here in the 13th round. Let me just show you guys the board overall right now.
And I have no real inkling to take another quarterback really until the next like probably 2 to 3 rounds from now, because there's still plenty of good options on the board. Yep. And Gronkowski was a guy that I was eyeing because he has a good weekly ceiling because he's going to catch touchdowns. That's basically all you're looking for out of Gronkowski. But Jonnu Smith, to me, has the same ceiling on a weekly basis as Rob Gronkowski. He needs to catch a touchdown probably, but he also has more big play upside, obviously, than Gronk has, because at this point in Gronk's career, he doesn't really have breakaway speed or anything anymore, and he never really did to begin with.
Yep. I absolutely see that. So overall, we do see Sparty fan time out. And it was Jonnu, of course. And he timed out with it. Yeah, great. But yeah.
Yeah, and then we got Flet back up on the board right now. If you want to go to the board real quick, I just kind of want to see what our Discord members, we can kind of check in on what they're doing right now. How's Flet's team looking?
Flet, so he has Chubb, Eckler, Cooper, Terry McLaurin. He completes that little stack there with Cooper and Dak. I like that. Got Ayuk, Carter, Fant, Burrow, Davis, Aguilar, Singletary. So other than really Singletary, I think he did very well here.
And honestly, at the point he got Singletary,
yeah,
I mean, he'll probably have a couple touchdown weeks that'll be somewhat relevant for fantasy on that week. And again, with the Bills running backs, just like the Bucs running backs, just like some of the other teams, nobody really wants these guys in redraft, but in a best ball format, one of them is going to probably have a top 36, top 24 week on a weekly basis, because someone's probably going to score a touchdown or catch a couple balls.
Absolutely. So we do see Daniel Jones go off the board here. And yeah, you kind of mentioned it. The worst case scenario here, well, actually, we can't even do it anymore because John is gone. I was going to say.
Yeah, and there goes Sam Darnold, who was a guy that we were eyeing for sure. Call me crazy here, but I actually don't mind the stack of Jameis Winston and Alvin Kamara.
I don't hate that at all, because we just saw Zach Wilson go off the board as well.
Yeah, and the QB position is getting a little bit dry right now because, I mean, if we don't take Jameis Winston, if he goes off the board before this, then we're looking at between Derek Carr, Deshaun Watson. Do we really want to take that risk? I know I've already exposed myself a lot to Deshaun Watson in the in best ball format, so I don't know if I want to continue to add to the portfolio that I keep taking Deshaun Watson in the 14th round. But Ben Roethlisberger is a guy that I just don't want on any team in general, because I just think he's kind of useless, to be honest.
Neither the Steelers.
Yeah, and Jared Goff, to me, I mean, he's not a terrible third quarterback, I suppose, but I would rather have Jameis fall to us if we can get him.
If we don't get Jameis, like, who else would be realistically go?
This could be a Bucs fan on the board right now, which would be scary because he's got TB12 related stuff. He's probably a Patriots fan, but TB12 GOAT could also be a Bucs fan. So let's hope it's not, because he'll probably take Jameis Winston if it is.
So Bucs fans actually still love Jameis then, eh?
Yeah, I still like Jameis Winston. I don't want New Orleans to do well, but I still like Jameis Winston.
Sorry, that was a great pick by him with Terrace Marshall.
What would be nice is if Jameis Winston had a great year this year, but the Saints won 8 games, and then Jameis Winston went to the Broncos or something next year, so I could actually cheer for him and not feel guilty about it.
Now, you know what's going to happen? He's going to sign on next year to be the Bucs backup and take over once Brady retires.
Yeah, dude. You know how many people on Bucs Twitter keep talking up that narrative? Like, there's no way any former first overall pick would ever do that.
Well, they're actually making that a narrative.
Yeah. People will be like, well, he might want to do it. It's like, I don't think any self-respecting quarterback would do that. Go with Jameis Winston here. Yep. And Rashad Penny's still on the board. So,
yeah, I mean,
at this point in the draft, we're at the 15-3. I know, like, it's a long shot for Rashad Penny to get into our lineup right now. What is our receiver depth looking like? Let me just,
1, 2, 3, scroll down to it. We have 6. And who's available? Like Diami. I like Diami. But yeah, it is kind of a dart throw range. So I don't mind if you want to go with Penny here. It's not the worst.
Yeah, I vote we go with Rashad Penny here, and then we're probably going to have to grab a second tight end pretty soon as well with our next pick, just because we
already got him queued up.
Yeah, we just have George Kittle right now, and if George Kittle gets hurt, we need somebody to be in our lineup. So
Gerald Everett, Chris Herndon again.
Yeah, Gerald Everett. I don't think Austin Hooper's a bad pick either. Austin Hooper is going to get crapped on by a lot of people because it's a run heavy offense, and he's like the 3rd or 4th target in the offense, but he has involvement in the offense. He's still going to get some targets. He's still going to have a chance to score touchdowns. And we saw him in Atlanta be an effective touchdown scorer in the past.
Absolutely. And a guy that I've found myself oddly targeting a lot here has been Demarcus Robinson. And everybody and their mother just wants McCole Hardman to take that step to be that wide receiver too. When Demarcus Robinson actually led the remaining Chiefs receivers last year in snap share. He had, I believe, a 78% snap share, and comparatively to Byron Pringle and McCole Hardman, actually paced both of them out. So I do think Demarcus Robinson will get that first crack at being that guy across from Tyreek Hill. If that's the case, and he's being had typically in the 16th, 17th round, he could be a very good dart throw later in the drafts.
Another guy that I think is not a bad dart throw is the guy at the top of the board right now, is Emmanuel Sanders.
I agree.
Because we've heard reports come out already saying that Emmanuel Sanders might be the wide receiver 2 on that team. Like in terms of running the most routes and playing the most snaps with the ones. Now, what does that mean? I'm not sure Emmanuel Sanders really has that much left in the tank. I think Cole Beasley right now is a better receiver, especially if we're talking about a slot receiver. But it wouldn't shock me if Emmanuel Sanders is the guy that's making Gabe Davis sit on the bench.
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree. And we saw it just last year. I mean, John Brown was a very good figure for this team when he was on the field. I mean, I think he was a top 25 to 30 receiver when he did play last year. So overall, Emmanuel Sanders has shown that he can be a productive player despite his age. If he can slide into that wide receiver 2 role for the Bills and you're getting him in the 16th round, you could do much worse with that pick.
Right. And we neither of us believe in the Bills rushing attack, clearly. So if they're not going to run the ball, they're going to have to throw the ball. And Stephon Diggs can't do everything. It's going to be Cole Beasley. It's going to be Emmanuel Sanders. And it's going to be Gabe Davis to some extent. The question is, what's the share of each of those guys?
Like, this is just brutal, man. Come on.
Yeah, that's a little bit unfortunate. I think we're looking at a situation now that I don't have a lot of faith in any of these tight ends, to be honest.
Like Ertz,
the biggest upside that I see on the board, and it's crazy to say that Zach Ertz has upside, but he might have the most upside of anybody on the board with the anticipation that he gets traded.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't mind Mo Ali Cox too, to be honest, because let's be honest here, we've seen the Colts have involvement with their tight ends, but I will agree, out of these remaining options, the answer here is going to be Zach Ertz, given the fact that.
And then after that, to me, honestly, Eric Ebron is probably the next best option, but even him, and OJ Howard too. Like I just don't think there's a lot of options here that I really like. Zach Ertz, I guess, is the best option. We need a second tight end on our roster.
Well, we might have to stack 2 of them in case, because I don't trust any of them filling in if Kittle were to miss time.
Right, and there goes Howard too. I was hoping Howard would be available with our last pick or something like that.
Unreal.
But if we wanted to go Ertz and Ebron, I don't hate it.
Yeah, for sure. Do you want to go with them back to back, or do you want to get a Emmanuel Sanders or De'Ami Brown in between?
Honestly, I don't see too much of a difference between a guy like Emmanuel Sanders and probably 4 or 5 pages that you could scroll down the receiver chart right now. So it doesn't really matter to me at receiver. I think any of those guys can fit into roles on our team. So I think I see a bit of a tier break at tight end right now as a guy that's somewhat usable. So we can go 2 tight ends here, I think.
We can stack the 2 tight ends, and the guy that might kind of go under the radar right now, I'm not sure if he's off the board, but maybe even Deshaun Jackson is our last pick of the draft. Since we have Stafford, since we have Cooper Kupp, we're not going to count on this guy filling into our lineup every week. But if he's somehow available, I wouldn't mind just spending a late 18th round dart throw on him. Maybe he catches a 75-yard touchdown every now and then. But I mean, that's the type of options you're talking about right here when Deshaun Jackson's in consideration.
Yeah, I mean, I don't hate it, but if we were going to choose between Deshaun Jackson and Nico Collins, I'd rather have Nico
absolutely.
Collins. Because Nico Collins could legitimately be the number 2 receiver in his offense. And how good is that role? How valuable is that role? Probably not very valuable, but Deshaun Jackson's ceiling is just a deep threat every, 7 games or something. He might give us 2 games of wide receiver 2 production. And I just don't trust Deshaun Jackson at this point in his career to even stay on the field for more than 5 games in a season.
Absolutely. Again, Deshaun Jackson would be if a Nico Collins, Demarcus Robinson, Dwayne Eskers, De'Ami Brown are gone, in my opinion.
Yeah.
So we are 4 picks away here. We'll kind of see what happens. So currently we have 3 quarterbacks, 5 running backs, 6 receivers.
Kadarius Toney in the 16th round for Spicy Hot also might be the steal of the draft because, I mean, he's a first-round receiver, man. Like he might get involved right away. He might kick Sterling Shepard right out of his job in the slot immediately. I don't think he will because I think Toney is a bit more of a raw prospect and Shepard will probably be able to hold him off for a bit. But Sterling Shepard's also not shown the propensity to stay healthy either. So there's a chance that Sterling Shepard gets hurt early in the season and then Kadarius Toney takes over the slot role and doesn't give it back.
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree with that. Again, Kadarius Toney is still a talented player, although he is raw. He has shown, even as a prospect, that he's a very good player after the catch and operating in that slot role. I mean, they
Oh,
took him.
no.
Like, this is just ridiculous, man. Like, do
Okay,
we
I guess
want
we're taking Zach Ertz, man.
who's our second one? Ali Cox or Herndon?
I mean, could be.
Like, I don't want Dawson Knox. Ew.
I mean, is Dan Arnold the next best option, low key? Or do we take Tebow for the meme?
No, I'm actually trying to
Scroll
make
down
money.
a bit more. Is there anybody else that's like somewhat interesting?
Tyler Conklin, baby. Ugh, this is just fucking no thanks.
That's gross. Is Kylan Granson a play?
God, I'd rather not.
I mean, Frank Reich keeps talking about this dude. Yeah, I personally would go with Dan Arnold. Honestly, I think Dan Arnold's the best available tight end.
I think we can get him back on the next pick.
All right, yeah, go ahead.
Do you want D-Rob, Dwayne Eskridge? What do you want? What do you want?
D-Rob's good.
D-Rob, okay. Snipe that.
Nice. All right, so if you guys made it to this point in the video, we're obviously winding down on the draft here. We'll just get our last pick in here. And then we'll get out of here. But if you guys made it to this point in the video, please like the video, comment any of your thoughts down below, subscribe to the channel if you are new. We might actually start doing a series, and we've talked about this kind of off camera, where we feature whatever the best comment is on our previous video. We'll put it at the beginning of our next video and answer it as like a quick question or whatever. Similar to, I'm sure you guys know the fantasy footballers, they have a quick question of the day kind of segment on their show. We might do something like that. So if you guys want to comment any of your, like anything interesting that you want to comment, general philosophy questions, anything like that, you can go ahead and comment that down below, and we might start featuring those with each new video that we have. Okay, here, let's start the.
We can do Arnold if you want.
Yeah, that makes some sense. I think Dan Arnold's the best available tight end on the board. Looking at the rest of our team, we don't really have a need to take another running back because they're not going to see the light of day in our lineup anyway. I mean, Dan Arnold probably won't as long as George Kittle's healthy, but if George Kittle misses some time, 3 or 4 games, we're going to need somebody to fill in. I don't know if I trust Zach Ertz to be that sole dude.
Yeah, and I mean, he was fine last year, 440, 4 touchdowns. Now has a bigger opportunity playing in that Panther system. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, probably not a guy that's going to get more than the yardage that he had last year, but he might catch 5 or 6 touchdowns and be valuable from that perspective.
For sure. So overall, I kind of like the complexity of our team. We do have the 3 quarterbacks, 3 tight ends, and overall, I think we did a good job here. So after this is finished out, we can recap the team quickly and head out of here. You guys have made it through a full around 50 minutes, so appreciate that. So quarterbacks, Stafford, Fields, Winston. Running backs, you got Kamara, Montgomery, Williams, Nyheim Hines, and Rashad Penny. Wide receiver, you got Cooper Kupp, T. Higgins, Robbie Anderson, Michael Gallup, Rashad Bateman, Denzel Mims, and Demarcus Robinson. And then rounding out at tight end, we got George Kittle, Zach Ertz, and Dan Arnold. So any closing thoughts before I head out of here, Corey?
The only thing I would say about our wide receiver core is that in a redraft league, that might be the scariest, most difficult to decipher core in the league. But because this is best ball, we don't have to choose when to start Robbie Anderson. We don't have to choose when to start Michael Gallup. They have a lot more appeal in that kind of format. So that's one thing that I would say. But no, other than that, if you guys enjoyed this video, just again, like, comment, subscribe, join the Discord if you haven't already done so. Totally free to do so. And make sure to check out the Underdog offer that's been scrolling across the bottom of the screen this whole time.
For sure. And comment down below best ball. So anyways, peace out, y'all. We'll see you for the next episode of Dynasty Decisions tomorrow.